My boyfriend rarely gives me oral but gave it to his ex. My boyfriend, M22, only gives me, F21. Oral probably once a month, and when he does give it to me he stresses that I have a shower and am shaven, which I always am. I am extremely hygienic and paranoid about hygiene, so the hygiene aspect is never a problem. However, he used to give oral to his ex-girlfriend after 7-hour days at university. And he used to give it to her essentially whenever she wanted, showered or not. However, with me, I feel like there is all of these strict rules. He's never enthusiastic about it either. When he does give me oral, I usually just tell him not to worry as what he is giving me is super lazy and boring. How would you go about this? Do I have a right to be upset? Feeling very sexually frustrated. Too long did not read. My boyfriend rarely gives me oral but gave it to his ex. What's wrong? How do you know those details about him giving oral to his ex? Did he tell you? BC, if he did, my next question to him would be what you're asking us. Why all the strict rules with you but not her? Ask him that. Sit him down, have an honest talk with him, really stress that you want him to be honest. Maybe you enjoy oral quietly and his ex was really loud and the sound turned him on and made him enthusiastic. You won't know if you don't ask him. However, he used to give oral to his ex-girlfriend after 7-hour days at university. And he used to give it to her essentially whenever she wanted, showered or not. I just kind of find it strange how you even know this. It is like you were in their relationship too, or your boyfriend just blurted out all these details just to make you feel lower than his ex, to put you down, to make it easier to be manipulating. Not being rude, but perhaps he isn't keen on how you taste. Some people are more, I'm not sure the right words to describe, but acida? Alkaline? Why? It could be your pH is different to what he's used to and the taste isn't what he's used to. It doesn't matter if he did it with his ex. You are not entitled to it. He's allowed to no longer like doing it. Every relationship is different and shouldn't be compared. Also, you shouldn't pressure someone to do something they clearly don't want to do. If this is something you really need and is a deal breaker, talk to him and maybe end things, but please don't pressure people into performing sex acts on you. How would you react if you find out your sister cheated on her marriage? For some context, my brother-in-law caught my sister cheating. Turns out she having extramarital affairs for 3 years. My whole family is with her and trying to get them back together. I am personally disgusted by this, both from my sister and my family, and I want to cut all kinds of contact with her. And there's also some reasons. She feels little to no guilt whatsoever for doing this. Her justification is that she married too young and her husband doesn't give her time. My brother-in-law is a really hard-working and cool person. And now his whole life is shattered. My parents are now asking for my help and asked me to talk to him to forgive. Their justification is she is my sister and not to be too dramatic about it. And here I am thinking of cutting off my family too. Am I being too unreasonable for this? Not at all. That's totally reasonable. Your problem is that you need to make a decision between supporting your family with not that good ethical views and the guy. I would stand with the guy, but keep in mind that it probably shrinks the harmony in your family between you and them. Frankly, my dear, she would be dead to me. 3 years is way too long to ever be able to come back from. If you tell him anything, you need to tell him he needs to divorce her. My sister asked me to lie and say she stayed at mine whilst cheating on him. I told her I wouldn't and she still told him she stayed at mine. He asked me and I told the truth. We no longer speak. I think you should be honest and say to your family that your moral code doesn't condone such behavior and you want no involvement, and they need to respect that. On their point of view, they want your loyalty in spite of your morals and for you to turn a blind eye. But individually, if you ask them, what if I knew your partner was cheating and I supported them in doing so? Their outlook would be different. SMH. Don't call me hoe. I mean, blood is blood. But if you truly believe your brother-in-law deserves better, I wouldn't intervene. You could speak to your brother-in-law straight up and tell him, my folks want me to speak to you. Try to convince you to forgive and forget. But I believe you deserve better, so I'm going to tell them I tried to speak to you and it didn't work. Update. My 24 husband, 32, wants to get boys, but I gave birth to 3 girls. Original post. Trigger warning. Sexual abuse. I don't know if you saw my first post. Long story short, my husband wants a boy, but I gave birth to just girls yet. Some of the comments were really helping. Know that my financial status isn't ideal. I have never worked because my husband makes enough money. So I don't have a backup plan. I work on that. But now to the problem. Some of you said he has some issues. Needs therapy. Some weeks ago, nearly after my first post, I talked about therapy. He wasn't happy about it. He isn't think much of therapy. But we did it. We went to couple and private consultings. I know that he hated every minute of it. He don't like to get confronted with his past. Thankfully he didn't complain about it. We went to some sessions and then yesterday was the breakthrough. I'm still shocked. At couple consulting he told us he was raped by one of his female pay teachers. He was 13 at this point. His confidence was not as high as now. She wanted to get pregnant by him, because he has good genes, he is tall and kind of handsome. When she didn't get pregnant by him, she blamed him in front of all teachers at a meeting in his presence that he can't make boys. She wasn't pregnant with a girl either. Late she was sent to psych ward. Nobody saw her ever again. My husband changed school but never did therapy. He never talked about it. Only his sister knows about it, but he never liked to talk with her. After this consulting we went to have dinner in a restaurant. We talked for hours until the restaurant wanted to close and our babysitter wanted to go home. So we got home and talked again, but more quietly. We conclude that this was maybe his issue. I'm still shocked but happy that he opened up. I hate to say that, but it was the first time I released my husband's childhood traumas. Maybe he has even more unspoken traumas. It's not an excuse for his actions, but I think I understand. We don't really have a plan for the future, but we will continue therapy. It helps him and me. Today I told him that we will get a fourth girl. This time he was way more chill than the last time. Thank you for reading. Too long did not read. My husband wants sons because of a childhood trauma when a teacher wants to get pregnant by him. After reading your first post, please stop having kids. After reading this post, the comment about his teacher not being wrong is pretty shitty. Fuck that rapist. Seems like you both are looking for someone to blame. The teacher was wrong. There's no such thing as someone not being able to make a particular gender. It really is very simple. Every child, it is almost exactly 50% chance of either gender. Since you have 3 children, the probability of them being all girls is 1/2 cubed, so 1 in 8. It is really not that rare and nothing uncommon. WTF is this story? The teacher was wrong. You only have 3 children. Have 12 girls in a row and then we'll talk about not being able to make boys. The chances of having 1 girl is 50%. The chances of having 2 girls in a row is 25%, and 3 girls in a row is 12.5%. 12.5% is a pretty high number, statistically speaking. It's 1 in 8. That means that for every 8 families that have 3 children, you'd expect one of them to have 3 girls. Even if you were to have a fourth, the chance of baby being a girl too would be 6.25%, 1 in 16. This is pure chance. It's not about not being able to make boys. You can't make boys because you lack the vital Y chromosome, but your husband has that. TBH, his teacher wasn't wrong. What an awful, disgusting thing to say. Your husband was raped as a child, finally feels comfortable to talk about it, and you think that's an even remotely appropriate thing to say? Stop having children. God forbid one of your daughters is ever assaulted and you side with their rapist saying, "Well, I understand why he wanted to RPE my daughter is attractive and has good genetics." You're a psychopath. That was incredibly brave of your husband. Good for both of you for pulling through. This trauma might have continued to affect his and his daughter's bond for decades. It probably doesn't solve all the issues that you have, but this is a huge step for your family. Husband wants to celebrate his 40th without wife and kids. Sue. We are a family of 4, husband, wife, that's me, and 2 sons, 2.5 yo and 3 weeks old. My husband just came up to me yesterday that it's time to think about his birthday. He is 40 in December. I'm like, whilst washing baby's bum. Okay, what do you want to do? Well, he wants to go and celebrate with his family in his country. I'm not surprised by this, and at this point I thought we all go together. Then he proceeds, then a gift for myself. I said, like what? Travel? He says, yes, I want to go on a trip, maybe to US or Canada, just alone. So at this point my sleep-deprived brain quietly exploded and I just replied, okay, go. And had an afterthought of fuck off, you can stay there. So at first I thought it was just a wild idea. He may be upset with me for something, woman shrugging, or whatever. I thought he wouldn't think it seriously. Then I overheard a conversation with his brother this morning, talking about his travel plan. His brother asked how about me. Hubby just replied she is okay with it. Yes, I said okay, but really, have we discussed? Now I'm thinking I won't fly to his family celebration and keep the kids with me. I don't like his family very much anyways. There is another issue here, he wants us to move back to his country, which I've never been so sure about and felt pressured in. He hates where we live now. Impossible to have an equal discussion. Not the first time I'm thinking of leaving. My birthday is in 2 days' time. Haha, I'll go to the local park with my kids. Sorry if my post a bit messy. I guess my question, is it rude of him excluding us from his big trip? I'm also suffering PPD and I know I'm not always a joy to spend time with. But still, it hurts a bit. Especially for the kids. So I totally get the desire to travel alone. I am also doing a solo trip to celebrate my 40th birthday and my husband is fully supportive of it. The difference is that my kids are 7 and 10 and he can handle them both without me, no problem. In fact, they'll probably take the week to go camping or something fun together. I would not even consider a trip like this when my kids were little. I started talking about this trip around my 2nd year of breastfeeding. So we've literally been talking, planning for me to go on a solo adventure for around 8 years. TLDR. Husband celebrating 40th by traveling alone can be fine if it works for you and your family. Husband leaving you with an infant so he can travel alone is not okay. Imho. 3 weeks postpartum. I would have gone off like a rocket if my husband asked me this. I wouldn't read anything into your internal monologue of anger and I don't think your reaction says anything about your relationship again. 3 weeks post-birth with a toddler too. Your brain isn't firing on all cylinders. I don't necessarily think it's odd for your husband to want a solo trip, but I'd be really clear on the parameters you're happy to live with. How long is he going for? What's the plan to help you with childcare while he's away? Will you get a reciprocal solo trip, if you wish, and would he be happy to be solo parent for that time? Communication is key, I think, and try to have that conversation sooner rather than later if he's already planning the trip. Wait a freaking second. Your birthday is in 3 days, you just gave birth and he is fucking making plans for his birthday in December? I don't care if he only wanted to go to the movies, is he out of his goddamn mind? You have a 3-week-old, your own birthday is in 2 days and there is no mention of it, and he's planning to ditch you all for his birthday in December and already making plans. I'd be ballistic. Now I'm thinking I won't fly to his family celebration and keep the kids with me. I don't like his family very much anyways. There is another issue here, he wants us to move back to his country, which I've never been so sure about and felt pressured in. Definitely do not go to his country right now. I don't want to sound like I'm fear-mongering, but please ensure all the kids have their own passports for the country you're in right now. And the country you're from, if that's different. When he goes, can you get your family to come stay with you for support? It's your birthday in 2 days' time. It's his birthday in 7 months' time. You have a 3-week-old, and he'd like to dump his family as his birthday treat to himself? Everything about this is wrong.